Am I the a-hole for making my pregnant wife sleep in another room? Am I the a-hole for kicking a bridesmaid out of the wedding due to her bullying the MOH in high school? Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they can no longer see my child unless they begin using the proper pronouns? Am I the a-hole for making my pregnant wife sleep in another room? Before everyone makes up their judgment from the title alone, please read it to its entirety. So my wife is 5 months pregnant. The pregnancy has been quite difficult for the both of us. She has hyperemesis gravidarum and it is extremely stressful on her. Hence, she's not able to work even part-time and I have to pick up most of the slack. I work full-time from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. For the past 2 months, my wife has had a difficult time sleeping, worsened by insomnia. There is a lot of twists and turns and getting up to go to the bathroom every few minutes. It absolutely destroys my sleep. I don't want to sound like an a-hole, but I have to wake up early for work, and because I am sensitive sleeper, I jolt awake easy with all the sudden movements. I had put up with it for a month till I decided I could not deal with it anymore. I was only getting 5 hours of sleep, and being in the tech industry, it is super hard to function with limited sleep. I had brought this up to her mildly and respectfully, and she completely understood. She relocated to a separate room, and recently when her parents came to visit us, she had casually joked about how she sleeps in a different room. My mother-in-law did not take this lightly and pulled me aside on why I have done this. I explained my defense and she said it is the least I could actively help her anyway with her sleep problems. We went back and forth for a while after my wife chimed in and said it is no bother and we should leave it be. I had a small argument with my wife after they left for bringing it up in front of them, and I feel really guilty. We have made up, but it's got me thinking if I am the a-hole for really making her sleep in a separate room or if I'm just looking out for my health. Am I the a-hole for kicking a bridesmaid out of the wedding due to her bullying the MOH in high school? I have 2 friends, Daisy and Marie. They went to high school together. Daisy was the most popular girl in school and very mean girlish. I knew she had some history with Marie, but neither had shared many details. Daisy has told me some stuff about her life when she was younger and it was a mess. She was out of control. Her mom is the worst and her dad had like 4 or 5 wives. Daisy and I are friends due to her and her husband spending summers in my state. Marie lives here but usually spends most of the summer in the Cape, so they haven't had to mingle too much, outside of a couple parties at my house. We are all in our early 30s now, so high school was roughly 13 years ago. When I got engaged, I asked Daisy to be a bridesmaid and Marie to be the maid of honor, and they both accepted. Daisy was down here for Thanksgiving and we did a lot of wedding planning. Marie was very quiet every time Daisy was around. Daisy then invited me on a trip for her birthday and casually invited Marie because she felt bad that her husband was out of the country, codependent with her husband, and if he's out of town, she makes her sister sleep with her. So I think this was genuine. Marie ended up going because she is bad at saying no, but she broke down crying at the hotel that she is still afraid of Daisy and shared with me some of the things Daisy did to her in high school and how they still impact her life today, and she struggles a lot with self-esteem. It did change the way I see Daisy. I asked Marie how she felt about Daisy being a bridesmaid, and she said it was giving her anxiety and bringing up bad feelings. And it is hard to see how happy Daisy is because Marie's mom gave her the cliche speech about Daisy was going to peak in high school. I decided I didn't want Marie to feel this way and asked Daisy to step back as a bridesmaid. Daisy got very upset and said she has been nothing but nice to Marie through this, and they were both kids. I said I still want her at the wedding, but I think it is too hard on Marie, especially with the destination bachelorette party, and she would have to be in close quarters with Daisy for multiple days. Daisy said she won't be at the wedding and hasn't been talking to me. Daisy's husband sent me a long message about how I am ridiculous for punishing her for the stuff she did as a kid, and haven't I evolved from the time I was a teenager. He said knowing what I know about how dysfunctional her home life was, I should have more empathy. Daisy's husband actually knew her in high school and hated her, so I get what he is saying. I feel a little bad because it was a long time ago, but at the same time, I feel like one person has to be uncomfortable. It should be Daisy, the person who started this. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they can no longer see my child unless they begin using the proper pronouns? Hi Reddit, I am a 45-year-old woman, so please bear with me on this. I am not tech savvy, but I heard about this page through TikTok and wanted to try my luck here. 8 months ago, my 15-year-old son came out to me as a FTM transgender. It was a shock, but my husband and I love and accept him, and we immediately put him in therapy and gender counseling while he began his transition. We understand that some people have difficulties understanding and being open-minded about the situation. When we told the family, there were mixed responses, and there were some relatives that had to be cut off, unfortunately. The two people having the hardest time are my parents, especially my mother. They have always been extremely close with my son as he is their first and only grandchild. So at first, I gave them a little bit of leeway and at times would very gently remind them to use my son's new name and correct pronouns. They were still struggling by the time we made it to Thanksgiving this year, and numerous times called my son the wrong name and pronouns in front of our whole family. I know this really upsets my son, and while I love my parents and understand they are struggling, I am my son's advocate. Couple days after Thanksgiving, I reached out and explained to them that unless they agreed to use my son's correct pronouns at Christmas this year, then we would always be attending and they would no longer be allowed contact with our son. They were very upset by this, and it truly does hurt me to do this to them because I know more than anyone how they are probably feeling. But I also know they are not trying, and I can only allow them to make their grandchild uncomfortable so many times. Our son will eventually change his mind, and while I validate their concerns, we have precautions put in place to help him. We agreed as a family that he will be in therapy for a year before he will be allowed to start hormone therapy treatment when he is 16. My whole family pretty much disagree with my decision. They agree that my parents need to try harder, but they also feel that I'm being too harsh on them and forcing them to accept something they are not ready to accept. I cannot talk to a lot of my friends about this because they cannot relate to what my family is going through. Edited, because a lovely fellow Redditor pointed out that I should say correct pronouns instead of preferred. Thank you to this person for educating me. Also, I am so overwhelmed by how many lovely people have seen this and share their support for my son. Thank you. And to those of you whose parents are having a hard time accepting you, I am so sorry. You deserve to be loved and respected just as you are. I hope they come around and realize how wonderful you all are. Please know that this mom right here loves you for just being your most authentic self, and that is the best thing you can do for you. You can't help how you feel, and you are never wrong for expressing that.